For exclusive content that Shakaama offers, join us over at Patreon as supporter of the Shakaama Live Show. That's video content you won't see on YouTube that can help you grow and maintain your wealth, financial education wrapped up in plain English, and video series of interesting and thought-provoking topics. Join us at bit.ly/patronshack. It's the first link in the information box. Problem. Convicted criminals are stripped of their right, constitutionally guaranteed right to vote. Observation. Nearly every major city is run by Democrats. It often puzzled me why they would pass legislation to strip an American of their right to vote. Committing a crime has nothing to do with voting at all, and it's unconstitutional on its face. So here are some observations, and I'm going to get to a revelation. Observation: nearly every major city is run by Democrats, even in a majority Republican state. The inner city is run by Democrats. Observation: more often than not, convictions are going to blacks or African descendants. This has nothing to do with arrests. This has nothing to do with crime stats, which is a majority, hands down, committed by whites, simply because there are tons of more whites. But when it comes to actually convicting, more often than not, it's going to be a black person. And the black person is going to suffer the longest possible sentencing out of everybody. Say what you will, those are facts. You can try and excuse that some sort of way, but in reality, there's no excuse. Observation: by stripping convicted criminals of the right to vote, you directly strip the right to vote mostly of black people. That's just an observation. Was this the intention? No logical person would come to any other conclusion. Revelation: nobody ever stuck a microphone and a camera into a former convict's face and gave them a platform. Revelation: not that anybody's done a study, but, and it would stand to reason through logic that this would be so, an overwhelming majority of former convicts turn Republican. So where's the logic? The logic is everybody involved in this farce of justice, from the mayor to the judge to the DA to the police to the arresting officer, are all Democrats. Because convicts have time on their hands, they have the time to research and study the system. And it is convicts who probably know the system more from a first-hand view than anybody else. What's the revelation? The convicts know that the Democrats are doing this to black people. And they are now knowledgeable on a whole nother level of all of the things that the Democrats are doing to black people in the inner cities. Everything from economics, politics, law. And they understand that it is one giant conspiracy to then pit black people against Republicans and have black people vote against their own self-interest consistently, even to the point of understanding the entire argument against raising the minimum wage. Why? Because unemployment levels in the black community at the lower and middle echelon, because middle-class blacks lost their jobs too. And middle-class blacks were living paycheck to paycheck exactly like middle-class white people. In fact, there's a stat that says over 90% of people in general in the United States live paycheck to paycheck, even when they earn $100,000 or more, even up to $300,000 or more a year. So there is no super difference between black people. I know the mainstream media wants to tell you that there's all this big difference, but there is no big difference. But these convicts come to the realization and the knowledge that the entire debate about raising minimum wage is a moot point for the black community because unemployment in the black community is retarded. 50% in some inner cities. 50%. Hands down, the entire debate about minimum wage is a moot point for anybody black. Anybody. Why? Because it affects the entire black community. Raising minimum wage, that's not a debate that any black person should even form their lips to even argue about. When you have 50% unemployment in some inner cities, 30% of entire groups within the black community, black men, and then teen unemployment, black teen unemployment, 50, 60, 70%. Arguing about minimum wage is a moot point. First, you need a job to even get on the board, to even sit at the table to be arguing about minimum wage. And this is why convicts are stripped of their right to vote. Anybody black hearing this message who do not understand what time it is, this is your wake-up call. Supposedly, black leadership raised the question of trying to get the stripping of the right to vote canceled, but they have never done anything about it. And also, these former black convicts are raising the question of black quote-unquote leadership, who are all on the Democratic plantation. These are the most dangerous black men in the country, not because of conviction, because 75% of all black men convicted of a crime, period, are there for simple marijuana possession. And even white people agree that simple marijuana possession, that means that you have enough to simply smoke by yourself. 75% of all black men convicted of a crime are there for simple marijuana possession. So these are not dangerous people as the media and the FBI would have you believe. False reports. These people are dangerous because now they go to prison. They study the system that they have been caught up in and come to some very eye-opening revelations that Al Sharpton, the Urban League, NAACP, Jesse Jackson, Tavis Smiley, the professors from Harvard, Cornel West, Louis Farrakhan, all of them who sat at the PBS Black Agenda, which was televised, are all in cahoots. Yes, even your precious Louis Farrakhan, in cahoots to stomp on the necks of black people. It is these people who have been convicted, who go and get a real life education and have time to study it daily, who come out and go, now I understand. It's unfortunate that you got caught up into the system because now you cannot exercise your right to vote. And that was the intention altogether from the beginning. These are the people who are now more American than anybody else on the planet. These are the people that they want to intentionally get rid of. It's ironic that these people are now awake and aware of what is really going on. This is why they jailed and killed Black Panther leaders, because they were awake and realized what system is actually here in the United States. It's unfortunate that the population is finally waking up to what politics in the United States really is. Who can these people turn to get their constitutionally guaranteed right back? Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, that's not constitutionally guaranteed. Well, it's a road, but it is, through legislation based upon the Constitution, which then and I don't really want to get into an argument about it's not constitutionally guaranteed. Legislation, which was based on the Constitution, which was based on further legislation, which was based on further passage of legislation other legislation, and you go down one block at a time, it all points to the Constitution. Now, please don't say, black people are only 3/5. I don't want to hear about that stupid argument, because you don't even understand that argument. Because that argument has been taught to you by a Democrat. Oh, I know you don't think that the person was a Democrat, but the original person putting out the information was a Democrat to begin with, to make you angry at the founders of the Constitution, when in fact the founders of the Constitution were trying to say that black people should not be counted as white people for slave owners, which is the exact opposite of what you have been taught. But I can't convince you of that because you're too ignorant to even listen to truth. A lie has been taught to you for so long that I can't even convince you of the truth. You are in the grip of Hitler and you don't even know it on a whole host of things. Even these black people who call themselves awakened, these awakened Hotep Negroes, think that they understand when in fact the issue has been so convoluted and so misrepresented that even if I tell you the truth, you will never understand because you refuse to. Because you want to be the victim at all times, when in fact they were trying to use you against other white people, but you won't understand that. You won't accept that. Do I accept that people use me against other white people? Yes, I do. Why? Because I understand the big picture. I use me against other white people because I understand the wheels within wheels within wheels. And when they accepted that as a part of the Constitution, they knew that they were accepting something lesser than what they got. You were supposed to be 0 of a white man, and Native Americans 0 of a white man. That would have been better, but they wouldn't accept that because they wanted to count you as 100% of a white man without giving you any rights of a white man. How do you count a slave as anything other than 0% when he remains a slave? Until such time as he's completely freed and given every single right of a white man, he should not be counted as anything other than 0%. But they didn't want to take that. And the compromise was 3/5. What was the intention? To count you as 100% and give you all of the rights of a white man. But the white slave owners would never accept that. It would have meant that slavery would have never been in the United States. But you were taught the exact opposite. You were taught that 3/5 meant that you were 3/5 of a human. No, the people trying to use you against other white people were trying to get you to 100% or 0%. And the compromise was 3/5. But you don't understand that. You don't get that. And probably your education level, and I do mean the way that they educated you, will mean that you will never accept that you can't even understand the truth. And it takes a prisoner who has had time and energy and effort and a goal to understand the system that they are in, come out of the belly of the beast and start talking when somebody puts a microphone and camera in front of their face, for you to finally realize what is really going on and why they really don't want those people to have the right to vote. Imagine 8% of the black population coming out and voting staunch Tea Party Republican. It would destroy all of the black leadership, because all of the black leadership has spoken out against libertarianism, justice, freedom, real constitutional rights, and the real rights of blacks as humans in the United States. You're living at 2/5 of a human right now, and you don't even realize it. This is why they stripped convicts the right to vote. There's absolutely no reason to even target convicts for the right to vote, and it's unconstitutional on its face. Yet everybody in the system is in on the conspiracy and tells you, oh, somebody who does drugs shouldn't vote. But yet we have idiots voting now who don't even know basic geography. What's your district? Who are you voting for? What's his name? What does he stand for? I have no clue. I have no clue. I have no clue. But you know what? The convict knows. He knows everything about the guy. He knows all the dirt on the guy. This is what they don't want. Thank you for watching the Shakaama Live show. This is a one-off. Don't get all excited.